Science at O'Neill Public Schools is something that I think everybody's involved in. I mean, it's a process that kind of started with our community and our school board. They've made the decision to invest heavily in STEM education. Our teachers really recognized that we wanted to be in the front line of change as it related to science education, and so we've invested heavily in terms of time and those kinds of things to develop a program that we can be proud of and that models what science should be in the secondary levels.
With the new standards that rolled out a couple years ago, we changed from teaching physical science to freshmen, biology to sophomores, and then letting our juniors pick whatever science course they wanted, to having an integrated curriculum where our 9th grade kids take foundations, which they get biology, physical science, and earth science all within their freshman year. And it's the base level that we want them to know. Then their sophomore year, they move on to discovery, where they're once again getting those 3 disciplines, but they're building upon that information and they're finding the connections between all of that. And then their junior year is called innovations, and that's when they're really taking it to the next step. And how does this apply to the world that we live in, and how can we make an impact on the world we live in? You will be in my freshman level course, which we call it Foundations because it is an integrated curriculum. So this is their foundational level of information that they need. Your goal is that by the end of class, you guys will understand current devices that are used to minimize the force. And then we're going to use that information and apply it to our egg drop lab next week. So you're going to kind of collaborate all this information together. Our goal or our plan for today, we're going to start with a quick video, get you guys thinking about it. Keeping in mind Newton's second law of motion and how we can minimize impact. So when we're thinking about this video and we're thinking of Newton's second law of motion and us trying to minimize the impact of a collision, can somebody tell me how those correlate?
The one where he was running and the guy went in front of him, stopped them basically.
So today what we're going to be doing, we're going to be looking at helmets, seat belts, and airbags. Those are our 3 safety devices that we're going to be looking at that help minimize impact. You guys are going to start. I'm going to give you 15 minutes to research.
Whoa, look at this.
Show.
I think my dad actually had one of them. No
yeah,
lie.
they
and
used
you
to
would open the car, yeah.
And when you started the car, they would go backwards onto the car, and they would kind of go into place.
For what materials were used, do you want to know what it's made out of?
Yeah. What's it made out of?
And then the stuff that's inside of it?
Yep. What is helping it minimize force? What are the materials they use?
We are changing the lining and helmet. Yeah, exactly. Make it look ours. I didn't find blueprint materials for the old one, but all the new ones, no one wants the same thing, so and the Wi-Fi's not working.
Since people are getting into their posters, I want to remind you when you're doing posters or infographics, you want them to be visually appealing. Pictures are a great addition, and as few words as possible. So words are fine, but just make it in a way so people can read it easily and they can get something out of it. Okay, you are going to have about 15 to 20 minutes to work on these, and then we're going to move forward with our comparing and contrasting. Go ahead and get started. So you want some information, but we want pictures too, okay? So maybe you could show a collision taking place or something, but we want some pictures to make it visually appealing. All right, and then add some words around it to describe why it's better.
Yeah, okay.
There's gaps in it, so what would the gaps be for?
Yeah, you could put air in it.
Oh yeah, there is. But what's the air do?
Makes it
softer, not soft, but
Okay, can you expand on that? We're talking about the force. What's it going to do with the force? Made of webbing material, made of polyester. I'll fly out to back. Good.
Look at, so this is mom's hand, and then move to 2 straps, which is just the lap right here.
Okay.
And this is a 3 strap, which is now, so you see?
Perfect.
This, and right there.
Perfect. Could you add years to those last 2?
What do you mean?
Can you find years when this one, when that one would have been, and then when they came with the 3-point one? Is this your airbag?
Yeah.
Awesome. How have
That's how they
airbag-
were then.
How have airbags changed over time?
So they're putting them in more places,
Okay.
and they are making, like, you know how, okay, so this is like how it was back then, but then now they're like, have like more cushions in like the one area.
Okay. You guys have all done your research and created your posters. What you're gonna do now is you are gonna go around and look at everybody else's. So what you're doing right now on that piece of paper is you are jotting down notes. I specifically want you to focus on notes over other. So if you did seatbelts, I want you focusing on the helmet and the airbags. However, if the other group that did seatbelts has something that you didn't have, I would like you to add that to your information. If you're looking at this picture by Sean here versus this picture up by Michael, what's the difference between the seatbelts?
That's so gross. What? Over here?
Yep. Like, no, this one, this little guy up here. Yep. So it used to just be a lap belt. You are going to do a Venn diagram. Remember, Venn diagrams are things that compare and contrast. So here's just a quick sketch of a Venn diagram. You're going to put whichever one you had in one of them. So if you had seatbelt, you're going to write seatbelt on one side. Then you're going to go other side, and you'll pick one other. I don't care which one you pick, you're going to pick one other. I want you to try to come up with 2 bullets for each area. So you would have a total of 6 bullet points. As you leave, you will hand this to me. I'm going to check over it, make sure it's good. If you're struggling with a similarity, think about our goal for the day, which was to research things that minimize impact. There's still 3 minutes until the next bell. A lot. Go ahead, Allie. Made of nylon. Good job. Good. Thanks, Brady. The beginning video I thought went well. The kids really engaged with that well. Obviously, you could tell the ones who have played football and know what a good hit feels like, and I felt like that got the class rolling well. Their research, I feel like the research they were conducting, they did a really good job with that. Something I wish they would have maybe done a little bit better with was communicating that research with their posters, but the nice thing was because we had a couple groups per safety device, I feel like we got the information out of it, whether it was at one group or another. Tomorrow in class, we will go through force of motion. We'll talk about how that correlates to those safety devices, and I'll try to maybe bring in some information I could see they missed on their tables. And then we will be going into their final project, which will be an egg drop lab, and they will have to try to create a device that will help protect their egg, and it'll have to be under certain weight limits and all of those, a normal egg drop lab, but to try to tie that in to our end of the unit. I oftentimes throughout different lessons allow them to draw on the desks, whether it's be to practice different math problems or similar to today where they get to communicate information to their classmates. And part of the reason they are more engaged with this is it's something unique that they don't get to do in other classes.